It's a pleasure to have you here on News Desk. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokulumle, streaming live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144, and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The details now. 4 Ayalolo buses have been burnt in a fire outbreak at the Ashanti Regional Workshop of the State Transport Company, STC, in Kumasi. An eyewitness, PA Dusai, says the fire engulfed the buses at about 10:20 p.m. Wednesday, few hours after drivers had parked and left. JoyNews' camera technician Kofi Asari was at the scene and has filed this video report.
Your friend Mr. PA every say, we were not duty or SCC. Me packet buses na them who say a jano had the cost. Name the cost of fire and the Yamian in the me no cry a bongwing. Bears a 2 hours pepper penny and umbe pack here. Umu prep movie and Muja Kofiana, assembly here.
My name is Assistant Division Officer Grade 1 Bernard Yemite, the Acting Commander for Asukwa Municipal Fire Station. Around 10:20 thereabouts this evening, we had a distress call that there has been a fire involving STC yard here at Oforukrom. And when we got here, we realized that a fleet of Ayalolo buses had been involved in fire. So what we did was that we tried our best to cut the fire from spreading to the other buses that were not involved in the fire. We were counting about 62 of them, and only 4 of them have been affected by the fire now. So what we are saying is that we are yet to launch investigation into the cause of the fire. From tomorrow morning, we'll be able to tell you the cause of the fire.
So that was a video report from a camera technician at our sister station at Love FM. We'll take you live now to the Obra spot, where earlier there were chants from hundreds of Ghanaians who've gathered there to call on political parties and to urge supporters of the NDC to stop what they've described as violent protest and use legal channels to address the grievances concerning the 2020 election. It was supposed to be a march through principal streets of Accra to demand the NDC accepts the outcome of the 2020 elections or go to court with their evidence of rigging. My colleague Kweku Asante is there live for us. Hello, Kweku Asante. Do we know what has halted or prevented the protesters from going on the streets? All right, Kweku, if you can hear me, we understand that this protest was supposed to have started by now, but the demonstrators are still at the Obra spot. What exactly is causing the delay? Now, you may recall, while we wait for Kweku Asante to get back to us, you may recall that after the EC chairperson, Jane Mensah, declared the 2020 results, the NDC said they had rejected the result, and they still stand by that. This was followed by protests across the country. Just yesterday, we saw some in the northeast and upper east regions. Earlier in the week, there were some demonstrations in Tamale and Wa. And just yesterday, we saw a police notice indicating that they had secured a restraining order, which was to prevent the NDC from organizing further protests and demonstrations in the capital, Accra. That's the latest with regards to the NDC's protest. We've not heard of any protests anywhere else in the country today. But what's happening now is that at the Obra spot, a group has decided to embark on what they call a peace march, and this is to urge the NDC and its supporters to go to court if they have any evidence of rigging and avoid the violent protest. All right, we have Kweku now.
A group of political parties, 9 political parties who contested in the just ended presidential election, together with an independent candidate, are calling on former President John Dramani Mahama to concede defeat in the just ended election. And Benin's viewers may be aware that the former President John Dramani Mahama and his political party, the NDC, have raised specific issues about the just ended election, saying that they are not going to accept the results because they feel there are some irregularities. They feel there are some vote pardon. They've alleged vote pardon in favor of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who was declared by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jean Mensah, as the winner of the just ended election. And so these 9 political parties, and let me mention their names, are the CPP, PNC, LPG, PPP, NDP, GCPP, GUM, UFP, and APC, and then the independent presidential candidate. The presidential candidate for all these political parties were here this morning, with the exception of the independent presidential candidate, Mr. Walker. But then the vice presidential candidate for the independent candidate, Mr. Joseph Jacob Osei-Yeboah, was also here. And so what this group of political parties are contending is the fact that, according to them, their own sources and their own look of the 2020 election, they feel like the process was fair. But there's one point here: the march that was supposed to be on the principal streets of Accra has been called off. The march is not coming off because, according to these political parties, they received notification from the police that because of 1 or 2 security issues, they are unable to proceed with the march. Of course, they did not give us details of these specific details that the security agencies gave them. But there are still a few people around here who came here because of the march that are still around. A number of them have already left, but I'll try and speak to some of them and get their perspective in terms of what they make of the calling of the march. But then these political parties are saying that John Dramani Mahama should accept the outcome of the elections. Let me see if I can speak to some of the people who have been here. Hello. 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 Please, can we speak? Yeah. So this was supposed to be a march to call on the NDC and other people to be peaceful in their protests and all that. The march has not come off. What would you say to that?
Yo, the entire young co-work ni bima ya man is so hayano. Ya bando NDC for. Inti si ya bando omde hu hia says ya work biem editia. Inti de yempenim for na kano e na ya di so. Enu nti na ama ya stop it. Now, I go to Jinan, but the here ne say peaceful. Ye here sumdue wo man ni mu. Eno de we kan ho amaka ne twice. Ye pane chow, oma ya sumu nyu ye wo man ni mu. Na ye so yemfa ya ho odi ne enim dia ye betimi dia bo man ye moa na ye man entumpon. Because Ghana there, the whole world obi enim say Ghana e ya sumdue kuro. Obi enim say Ghana e ye peaceful. Enti ye mpese we beba na ebeye niama bi basa na ye kuro no ye ho aba fi ana ye kuro no ho ensensam ne na mamanfo amaman so enti ye sre ye papa no ye mpanimfo NDC fo ye wofanam ye papa nam ye nuanam because ye nyina ye oman ba ye nyina ye abusua ba ako ye nya yiyimu ye nkase kwaku bani ye yawo bani ye nyina ye fu ba ako ma se de Yesu kan se me manam mu nyina mu ye abusua ba ako moja ba ako ye nyina ye moja ba ako enti ye sre ye papa no NDC fo ese ye sre wo nkotojo dan kotojo ensa ye dansa yam se omoma ye nya asumdue wo manimu na obi antimi nya ne asese wo ye hwe Christmas ye hu se Ghana ye balling obi anko obi amma because ya sumu nyoyen se ya sumu duyen a ye betimi aye ne asese ye edwadifo ye ntimi nkodi yedwa ye ton niema ya niema gugu dam ne ye because ye ukosisi aye koto asho so na ya bo ye hu sa niema we bi wo Ghana efri si mani fredi mi hu bi da from JJ Pencil me free to abanya ne ma to aba free JJ Pencil ye hu sa de we bi da eti ye sre omo enchirima fo no ma ba ne ye sre omo se ye pomo chew omo hwe yen no omo fa nche no omo nya mu mananka Na de Nyankopon obeye no wa ye wie dada yesre omo medamase.
Right, so Benis, you just heard from one of the people who came here because of the march. This march did not come off, but she's been speaking quite passionately, calling on the NDC to accept the election results. They are saying that the rejection of the results has caused a lot of tension in the country, and they are pleading on the NDC to accept the outcome of the elections. Earlier today, there were a lot of people with a lot of placards that read, Ghana has decided, respect the vote of the people, NDC, we want peace. A lot of placards that is people who are ready to march have been showing. But let me share with you brief parts of the statement that have been released by these political parties. They are saying that the essence of this peace walk we just embarked on is to appeal to our colleague, the NDC presidential candidate John Mahama, to concede defeat, just as we have all done, and congratulate the president-elect, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who was declared as the legitimate winner of the 2020 elections. It has become extremely crucial for John Mahama to accept that he lost the elections and congratulate the winner, not only because this gesture is necessary to protect the peace and stability of this country, but also to preserve and affirm Ghana's enviable democratic credentials. They go on to say that, according to the result declared by the commission, they mention the numbers, they say that it is so clear that candidates securing more than 50% of the number of valid votes cast at the election, it's all clear that Akufo-Addo won the election emphatically with 4% difference, and this translates into a whopping 517,000 votes difference between him and second place candidate John Mahama. So they continue to make the point that the NDC presidential candidate and Benis, over the past few weeks, or the past few days, I must say, since the Electoral Commission declared the election, there have been series of protests nationwide by the opposition National Democratic Congress challenging the outcome of the 2020 elections. As of now, we are yet to have an indication what other legal steps the NDC will take in terms of challenging this outcome, aside the usual street protest. Of course, like yesterday we reported, as of today, the NDC has only 6 days to be able to present an election petition to the Supreme Court to challenge the outcome of the election, just as the Constitution dictates. And so we'll be looking forward to see what the NDC will be doing that. So this year we have here the youth organizer of the Ghana Freedom Party, GFA, Creaton Cause Party, who have also been part of this protest, to share with us why they wanted to embark on this protest.
My brother, as you know, we went to an election. We were expecting just a single person or just a single candidate to take the lead or take the lead to the presidency. And we all know that President Nana Akufo-Addo was at a comfortable lead. So we're not surprised when EC came out to declare him as the winner. But unfortunately for the NDC, they keep on hitting the streets, that they are demonstrating against the outcome of the election, which is not normal. My brother, it's not normal, because you, the media, even reported what was on the ground, and most of the media houses will recall that their coalition was that, I mean, it goes with the EC, the Electoral Commission's coalition. So I was so surprised that the NDC came out boldly that they were cheated.
Right. So if they have any issues with the election results, one would say they have the constitutional rights to protest and do whatever is within the Constitution. What would you say to that?
As for our party, we are not emphasizing much on the demonstration, but the outcome of the demonstration. My brother, you cannot demonstrate while burning ties, blocking of roads, destroying properties, and so forth, beating up security personnel. It's not normal. It's a thing that we should condemn it. And in fact, the Constitution also says that if they have a case, if really they believe they have been cheated, they should go to the court. So I don't know why they are wasting time. If indeed they will go to court, why are they trying to bring insecurity in the country?
Right. So thank you very much. This is a youth organizer of the Ghana Freedom Party, Creaton Cause Party. Let me try and speak to one of the people who came around for the march, and then we'll get into some other details. But sir, the march has been called off. What has been your reaction so far since you've been here, and the reason why you left your home to come here this morning?
Okay, my name is Honorable Eugene Amuadakwa, North Jolo Assembly Member. I am here because of one thing. Ghana needs peace. We need peace to do everything that we want to do. So I am here in support of other political parties to show concern that we need peace, because without peace, there is nothing that we can do. And because I'm an assembly member and I have a responsibility within my electoral area, then I have to show concern. That is why I'm wearing Ghana. We have only one Ghana. When you see our neighboring countries, they are all Francophone countries. Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, and then Togo. So we need Ghana. Without Ghana, where are you going? That's why I'm here. I'm here to show my concern to the citizenry.
So what course of action would you advise the NDC to take if they disagree so much with the results?
It's one. I think 8 years ago or so, the year 2012, then President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, said it. If there's anything that they need to do, we have Ghana is a sovereign country which is ruling by, we use constitution that rules. So it's one. If there's nothing at all, they have to go to the Supreme Court or any other court that they think they can help. Yes.
Right. So, I mean, the common refrain here today, Benis, has been that if the NDC has any legitimate means, legitimate reasons for which reason they are refusing to accept the outcome of the 2020 presidential election, then they must head to the court. And that is actually the same thing that presidential candidates in the 2020 elections of the Convention People's Party, Mr. Ivor Kwabena Greenstreet, said. He says that although they think that there were no problems with the election, if the NDC have legitimate means to challenge that outcome, then they must go to court. It was the same refrain from David Apasera of the PNC, the same response that Mr. Kofi Akpaloo and other people gave. And so far the refrain here has been that you could have the legal right to protest, but protest within the laws and make sure that you do not destroy property, you do not cause a lot of mayhem and chaos, and that at the end of the day, we'll be able to have the peace. And then if you have the evidence, then you must go to court, Benis.
That's my colleague Kweku Asante there, giving us details of what's happening there at the Obra Sport. As you can see, some of the people who gathered there with the hope of marching are still there. As I'm sure many of you expected that this would have been called off because of the notice we received from the police about the NDC being banned or restrained from organizing further protests. And well, that's what it is. But away from that, the Police Motor Traffic and Transport Department will be clamping down on commercial tricycle and motorcycle operators in the Ashanti region. We've got more for you shortly after this. Thank you so much for staying here on News Desk. Now, the Police Motor Traffic and Transport Department will be clamping down on commercial tricycle and motorcycle operators in the Ashanti region. Regional MTTD Commander Superintendent Emmanuel Edubuahin describes as unacceptable the rate of road crashes involving these motorcycles and tricycles in the region. Road crashes in the region increased from 2,974 in 2019 to 3,137 in 2020, with 518 deaths, representing 21% of previous year's figures. Ohimi Interior has more in the following report.
A total of 518 persons have been killed in road accidents as at December 10, 2020, compared to 409 in 2019 over the same period. Out of this figure, 167, representing 13% of cases, were killed by motorcycles and tricycles. Mr. Edubuahin tells Joy News the police will strictly enforce road traffic regulations, including a series of sensitization campaigns to educate the public on the menace.
From January 1st to 10th December 2019, we recorded 2,974 cases in Ashanti region alone. And then this year, we would have expected that because of the COVID and the knockdowns and the restrictions that came thereof, that the traffic crashes will also reduce. Unfortunately, we have recorded 3,137 crashes within Ashanti region. We cannot be proud of this figure. 2019, same period, 409 people lost their lives. And this year, same period, 518, which is alarming. So how long shall we sit down for the innocent soul to be lost on these preventable crashes? That is why we are here today, once again, to join my sister to sensitize the public, both the pedestrians, the drivers, the passengers, and everybody, so that we all come together, including the media, to make sure we all arrive alive. And we are not doing the education alone. Whilst we are doing the education, then we also back it with enforcement.
Accidents involving motorbikes and motorcycles in the Ashanti region increased by 20%, from 872 cases in 2019 to 1,017 in 2020. Out of 518 persons killed, 420 were males, while 97 were females. The police MTTD has been meeting leadership of transport unions at Tech Junction and other lorry terminals as part of an educational drive ahead of the Eurotide. Mr. Dubois wants all hands on deck to reverse the trend.
In 2019, we had 872, which was 18% of the total number of crashes. This year, it has increased to 1,017, which also represents 20% of the total number of crashes. 20% is not a small figure. That is why we have been hammering on these tricycles and motorbike users. We are not saying that people should not use them, but if you are using the motorbike either as a rider or pillion rider, you put on your protective gear. You also put on your crash helmet. And I want to caution those of us who are fond of using this tricycle as passengers. The vehicle is not constructed in a way that it is comfortable and it is safe to be used as commercial vehicles.
Meanwhile, the KNUST District MTTD Commander, ASP Benis Kunedi, wants drivers to stay away from drink driving. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oyemi Nteria reporting.
Thanks for your company here on News Desk. Let's do some other stories now. It was a moment of relief for a lot of people after news of the development and approval of COVID-19 vaccines. But it appears that relief is being threatened with the discovery of new variants of the coronavirus in the United Kingdom and South Africa. Well, we want to try to localize this now on News Desk. I'm sure you have a lot of questions on your mind about whether our compulsory antigen tests conducted at the airport are able to detect this new variant. We know that about 40 countries at least have banned flights from the UK and South Africa because of this new variant. And in the UK itself has tightened restrictions as a result of the spread of this new variant. We've been joined by Professor Ampofo. He is Coordinator, National Laboratory Network for COVID-19 Testing. Good morning, Prof. Thank you so much for joining the program. Can you help us? Yeah, can you help us understand how this antigen test works with regards to variant of a certain virus?
So when you say antigen test, I assume you're referring to the testing that we are doing at
the airport, sir.
The international airport.
Yes,
yeah.
please.
Okay, so antigen testing is based on looking for the whole antigen, okay? So I guess from the reports we've got so far from the UK and other countries, because they picked it up in other countries other than the UK, I think it's been found in Germany, also in Denmark, and a host of countries, as you said, that ban travel, also restrictions for UK. I haven't seen any report that testing is not picking up these new variants. These new variants have obviously come across, been identified as a result of sequencing. Now, antigen testing looks at the whole antigen, the whole virus particle. And from what I gather, since the new variant was discovered in the UK, we're still picking up positives coming from UK and other countries. So I think the antigen testing that is in place is able to pick up the new variant as well. Over.
Oh, all right, Doc. And so, I mean, persons living in Ghana should not be worried about flights coming in from the countries like UK and South Africa, right?
I think that, to be direct, this is a new virus. And respiratory viruses tend to change over time. I'll give you an example, influenza. So we have a problem with influenza virus because it keeps on changing each year. So the vaccines actually change each year. The vaccines are designed against the most recent circulating strain. So there have been a few scientific reports recently indicating that it was not unexpected that the SARS-CoV-2 virus new variants would arise. And actually, the detection in the UK is a reflection of the rapid application or the application of new technology rapidly for the pandemic that we are facing. And same thing in Ghana. I mean, we've been able to sequence over 90 SARS-CoV-2 virus previously up to the end of November. This is in the international database. And so we're looking with colleagues at the West Africa Center for Infectious Cell Biology, WACPIC, and Noguchi. We're looking at some of the virus sequences that we've had up to November, and we've not been able to find a new variant. So I've just spoken to colleagues at KCCR, Kumasi Center for Research Tropical Medicine, and also at University of Allied Health Sciences in Ho. And all these groups are now looking at recent samples that have come into the country in December related to travel. We're going to check and see if this new variant is present. And we hope that this data should be available in a couple of weeks.
All right, finally, you mentioned influenza and the fact that the vaccines had to be developed each time the virus mutated. Is that it? Is it early days yet to say that we may have to start doing that for the COVID-19 vaccine?
Well, that is something that we can't rule out. And knowing the way influenza has behaved, this is a new virus, so it's only time that will tell. Probably you could even speculate that maybe the new variant is already in Ghana. We don't know. But we will continue to monitor the testing regime that we have, which using PCR, which is to look for the very RNA that makes up the virus, and we will continue to do sequencing. And when the vaccines are introduced, we will, of course, continue to monitor and see what kind of strains are circulating and how people respond with regards to immunity to the circulating strains, depending on what kind of vaccine is used.
Appreciate your time here this morning. Professor Ampofo is coordinator of the National Laboratory Network for COVID-19 testing, and we've been talking about the new variants that have been discovered in the UK and South Africa. Let's move from the scientific world and do a bit more on governance now, because at least 40 countries have banned flights from the UK and South Africa due to this new COVID variant that has been discovered. Thankfully, we've been joined by Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah on whether government is considering or has started having discussions on whether or not to ban flights from these two countries, as other governments have done. Thank you for your time here this morning, sir. So we've been told by Professor Ampofo that they're checking to see at least if that new variant exists in samples that have been taken already. But is government considering a ban on flights from South Africa and the UK?
Bernice, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for the opportunity. And Professor Ampofo also mentions that those who run the test have not filed any report that the test is not able to pick up this variant. I think that is an addition we have to make so that people don't leave with the impression that there's a gap. There's no gap. Those who are running the test have not come to a view that they are not able to pick up this variant. First of all, the testing, be it PCR or antigen, picks up the virus, positive or negative. And then when they go and do the sequencing, they may find a particular strain or variant of that virus. The testing is not to determine the strain. The testing is whether you are positive or negative. So if you are positive, whatever strain or variant, for us, you fall into the same category of positive, and then you have to be managed as such. If you are negative, then you are managed in a different way. Now, I've always maintained that all cards remain on the table when it comes to the COVID response strategy. So at any point in time, we continue to examine the data as it comes in to use as a basis for decision making. Ghana has two protective layers when it comes to international travel. Apart from closing all our borders, for the airport that is open, before you can enplane and come to Ghana, you must have tested negative PCR, which is the gold standard, from your exiting country. If you are positive, regardless of the type of strain, if you are positive, you won't board the flight. B, when you land in Ghana, then you go through the antigen test. Again, if you are positive, regardless of the type of strain, whether it's a new strain or the old strain, if you are positive, you don't enter the general population. You have to then be contained and then assisted with the necessary medical care. We are clear that these two levels of protection adequately protect the Ghanaian population. We do not have any data today that says otherwise. And for that purpose, we continue to monitor. And if need be that we amend the two layers of protection, we will do so.
I mean, just to add to what you said, just quickly checking what the situation is in the Netherlands and Spain. For example, in the Netherlands, you need a PCR test, a negative one, before you enter the country. If you arrive without one, you're not allowed, and you can't do a test on arrival. In Spain, you can do a test on arrival, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need to get a PCR test. So you're right when you say we've got a double layer there. And I use these two countries because they have banned flights from the UK and the US. But let's talk about quickly, because we're talking about COVID before you go, the Christmas festivities, and what word would you want to, we've been hearing from you, you do this every week on COVID-19, but what would you like to say as we go into the Christmas festivities in regards to avoiding crowded areas and staying safe?
I think that we all have to be cautious and not take it for granted that the situation has been well managed, and so we can take it for granted. Everybody has to be cautious for all types of gatherings, and we must ensure that the COVID preventive protocols are adhered to, be we in church or at a party or at an event or even at home when we are receiving visitors. We must ensure that the COVID preventive protocols are adhered to. We are in a high-risk time, where temperature, gathering of people, potential to be indoors are all not necessarily favorable. But what we have to do is to ensure that the COVID preventive protocols are adhered to so that we protect ourselves.
During your latest press briefing, you mentioned that we need to move away from that attitude of wanting to be policed to do the right thing. But you would admit that there would always be deviants. There would always be people who would not adhere to directives, and that's why we have law enforcement. It seems to be the downside in our COVID-19 fight. We don't see examples of people arrested, pubs closed. In the UK, for example, pubs are closed, locked, the police is sent to that place, and people know that, okay, I risk a fine, which is part of our the president's executive instrument. You will be fined, or if you cannot afford that, you will be jailed. So why aren't we doing that? Why are we slacking on that part?
I think it's fair to agree with you that law enforcement, when it comes to COVID preventive protocols, has not been as sharp as we would desire. And I think it's because the primary approach has been to engage and encourage compliance. The primary approach has not been to necessarily throw people in jail or fine people as a first instance. And so a lot of times the law enforcement persons seek to engage and encourage compliance. But I think we are all in agreement that our law enforcement agencies need to step it up a bit more. And that is why we continue to engage with them and draw their attention to the fact that where we observe flagrant violations of the COVID preventive protocols, they need to be a bit sterner in the application of the law.
Thank you for your time this morning. Kojo Nkrumah is Information Minister, and he joined us to have this conversation about the new variant of COVID-19 that's been discovered in the UK and in South Africa, and whether Ghana, like other countries, will restrict flights from these countries. But he tells us that our double layer of testing is one that allows us to mitigate the spread and the impact of COVID-19. So adorable, aren't they? Well, it's exciting for them. It's Christmas. And here on Joy News, we wish you a very Merry Christmas as always. I'll be back with more. Do stay. It's the eve of Christmas, and yes, we try to break the rules a bit because it's a time of fun and a lot of loving and sharing from my entire team. We wish you the very best of the rest of the day. Do take care. Please don't drink and drive. We need you. God willing, tomorrow, Christmas Day, please be my guest even as you relax at home or wherever you are, because we are very much interactive. We are on social media, on Facebook. We are Joy News on TV. I'm Dennis Abu Baidulansa. Do have a very Merry Christmas.